You at 11. Now, time for the story with Martha MacCallum.
Thank you, Shannon. Live from New York tonight, here is the story that you have not heard.
I'm free to hug my family. I'm free to live life.
11. Now, time for the story with Martha MacCallum.
Thank you, Shannon. Live from New York tonight, here is the story that you have not heard.
I'm free to hug my family. I'm free to live life. I'm free to start over. I cannot. This is the greatest day of my life.
What a story, right? Since President Trump took office, he's received 2,800 petitions for clemency from people who feel that their punishment exceeded their crime. So how did Alice Johnson become the lucky one who actually gets her life back? She is here exclusively in moments with her surreal story and the unbelievable 24 hours since she walked out of those prison doors. Alice spent 22 years behind bars for charges related to drug possession and money laundering after she fell on some hard times and faced financial desperation. So just 8 months ago, she happened to catch the eye on Twitter of reality star Kim Kardashian, who took up her case, and she pleaded it with Jared Kushner and President Trump. And just 1 week later, she is a free woman. She walked out of that jail cell this morning where she was supposed to spend the rest of her life and into the arms of her weeping and grateful family. Can you imagine how all of these people feel having their mom and their grandmother back? Alice is going to join us in just a moment, but we begin tonight with Brit Hume, Fox News Channel senior political analyst. Brit, good evening to you.
Hi, Martha.
It's been very interesting to watch this. This has obviously become a priority for the Trump administration to grant clemency, to grant pardons. We've seen a slew of them. What do you make of this part of the president's goals?
Well, it'll go in the books for a lot of people as another example of him ignoring the norms that have accompanied presidential behavior. After all, there is such a thing as the pardon attorney at the Justice Department, and there is a process by which pardons are supposed to be gathered and processed and examined, and then recommendations made to the president. Now, the president has, to be sure, Martha, sweeping authority to grant pardons. This is one of the most sweeping powers he has. And the purpose of all of those processes is really to make it easy for him and to protect him from making a mistake. That is to say, for pardoning somebody who doesn't deserve it, who will then, turn to crime again or whatever it is. So the president takes some risks here, but this is one of his powers, and he doesn't care much about norms. I'm sure, Martha, he considers that the last thing he was elected to do was to observe all the norms in Washington, which he considers the swamp.
Yeah,
so here we are.
I mean, it's fascinating to watch, and and as we know about this president, when someone who has a compelling argument puts something in front of him, he likes to act on it. And that's what he did in the case of this woman. The other cases he's looking at, Rod Blagojevich, who we have spoken about, Martha Stewart, those sort of fall into a different category and raise the questions about whether or not he's also trying to make a political statement with the potential for pardoning those folks because of all of the people who are under scrutiny in his own world, who he thinks may face a similar fate.
Well, I think that requires us to do a little bit of mind reading, which is beyond my ken. I've been a reporter for 50 years, but I can't read minds, and it's not at all clear to me that his potential commutation of the sentence or the pardoning of Rod Blagojevich is an attempt to say to Paul Manafort or somebody, don't flip on me. The president says there's nothing to flip about. So, that's possible, I suppose.
Yeah, but when you look at some of these cases,
Martha.
Britt, many of them, were adjudicated by Fitzgerald, by Comey, by Mueller, by the same team that he feels unjustified by. And in some cases, in Blagojevich's case, he had the same kind of raid that Paul Manafort had at his house. So the only point that I'm making is not that he's trying to send a signal to the people who may talk or may not talk, but that he may be sending a signal about justice and about how he feels about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, he's thumbing his nose at the prosecutors a little bit. But I wouldn't say that about the Scooter Libby pardon, for example. There's a lot of people have been encouraging that for years. I wouldn't say that about the Jack Johnson pardon. So, it's kind of a mixed bag here of different people at these pardons. It's a pretty diverse group.
I want to ask you about a couple of these Fox News polls that just came out a short time ago, Britt, if we could, and we're going to speak with Ms. Johnson right after the break. This one, should President Trump, and we're moving on to the investigation here a bit, should he agree to be interviewed by Special Counsel Mueller? 60% say yes. 32% say no. Let's move on to the next one. Did President Trump's campaign coordinate with Russia? Now, back in June, it was at 40%. In January, it was at 42%. Now it's at 44%. So that's one number that seems to be increasing a bit. The president's been pushing back so hard about the witch hunt on Twitter. And I wonder when he looks at these numbers, he may think that that's not working, Brett.
Well, and I think the alarming number there, Martha, and you probably have it in front of you, I don't, is the increase in the number of people who think he may have been involved in some kind of collusion. And so you'd think that would bother him. But of course, people have been hearing about this for so long, and this struggle has been going on for so long, that you would expect people to become suspicious. And let me just turn for a moment to the question about whether he should be interviewed. That number doesn't really surprise me. And the fact is, Martha, that I don't think that his lawyers are resisting this because they think he's guilty. I think his lawyers are resisting this because they think that this guy, who's such a loose cannon and who is a lot of the time, so inarticulate, they'll never say this, but he's so inarticulate that he might fumble his way into saying something that isn't true unintentionally and get himself in trouble that way. And, even straightforward questions could give that kind of an answer.
They're concerned because he's Donald Trump, and they see the way he answers questions, and they see the way he sometimes speaks in hyperbole, and, they obviously, I would imagine are very concerned that if he gets into a room like that, there won't be much leeway for that.
If you were representing him, would you recommend
No
him going
way.
in?
No way.
There you go. Well, that kind of explains it. It explains that difference in our view and the viewpoint of a lot of the public who think if he's got nothing to hide, why not answer questions? It kind of makes sense on the surface. But you look a little deeper and you think, well, maybe not.
Yeah, you got to consider the client in all cases. Britt, thank you so much.
You bet, Martha.
Good to see you tonight.
Thank you. You too.
So coming up next, as promised, Alice Johnson and her attorney will join us talking about her newfound freedom, the fact that she became an ordained minister when she was in prison. She's a fascinating story to tell. Also tonight, a former U.S. Navy sailor who was also pardoned by President Trump and is now threatening to sue the Obama administration, saying Hillary Clinton committed a bigger crime and got no time, that their stories line up in a very close way. This as we hear that the new IG report will be out June 14. Christian Saucier on his exclusive story coming up. So just an update on our guest tonight. Alice Johnson and her attorney are just getting set up. They're going to join us in a moment. But in the meantime, also breaking tonight, did you hear about this? June 14, a week from today, we will finally get a look at the highly anticipated Inspector General's report on the FBI and the DOJ's handling of the whole Clinton email investigation, which reportedly will say that James Comey defied authority as FBI director. It's 400 pages long, and it is about to be released. Those findings are very important to a lot of people, and they are also important to this former Navy sailor who was recently pardoned by President Trump. He says that he was sent to jail for a very similar issue that Hillary Clinton was looked at for. He took pictures on his submarine, but he says that Hillary Clinton did much worse with no consequences. And now Saucier is threatening to sue the Obama administration, saying that President Obama and James Comey need to answer for their actions. He is here exclusively with us in moments. First, Trace Gallagher in our West Coast newsroom with the backstory on this one. Hi, Trace.
Hi, Martha. The lawsuit alleges Christian Saucier was subject to unequal protection of the law. Saucier admitted that in 2009, when he worked on the USS Alexandria, he took photos of the submarine's propulsion system, which he knew was classified. He says he took them to show his family and he denies sharing them with any unauthorized source. He later destroyed his laptop, his camera, and the memory card that stored the photos. Saucier's lawyer points out that his client took 6 pictures of areas that are confidential or restricted, and that former FBI Director James Comey said Hillary Clinton's private email account contained 110 emails and 32 email chains considered classified, including 8 chains that were top secret and 36 chains classified as secret. Hillary Clinton maintains she didn't know the information was classified, though James Comey says she clearly should have known. The treatment given to Christian Saucier versus Hillary Clinton also became a major theme of the Trump campaign. Watch.
How about the young man took pictures of his submarine? He wanted to have some pictures. The submarine's not like it's a brand new submarine, it's many years old. They put him in jail for a year. And she does all of these different things.
And it wasn't just the Clinton comparison driving the narrative. 2 other sailors on the Alexandria also got caught taking photos in classified areas. One was given a reduction in rank. The other was docked $560 in pay. Saucier's lawyer says these types of cases are almost always handled within the military. Instead, Christian Saucier was dishonorably discharged from the Navy, lost his VA benefits, and was a convicted felon until President Trump pardoned him last month. Here he is right after the president cleared his criminal record. Watch.
Like I said, I still have faith in the system, and that's exactly the reason why I maintained, the above board thing. I served my time. I didn't cause any issues in prison. I did my time the right way. I took my punishment like a man, and I got out, and I did my best to be a contributing member of society.
And he is very grateful the president took action. He knows a pardon is not a magic wand, but says he is staying positive and looking forward. Martha.
Thanks, Trace. Joining now for an exclusive interview, that pardoned former Navy sailor Christian Saucier. Christian, great to have you with us tonight. Thank you so much. You had this strange parallel experience of watching what Hillary Clinton was going through and what they were finding, day after day and week after week, in these classified information that was on her server that she tried to destroy. And then you hear this from James Comey when he came out on July 5th, 2016. Watch this.
All the cases prosecuted involved some combination of clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information or vast quantities of information exposed in such a way as to support an inference of intentional misconduct or indications of disloyalty to the United States or efforts to obstruct justice. We do not see those things here.
Through your mind when you listen to all of that, the same FBI was investigating you. Sorry.
Well, thanks, Martha, for having me on. And the funny part is like I said, right after that, he said if anybody else does this, they'll be in prison, basically. So it's okay if Hillary Clinton does it, but anybody else, you can't. And I think that's the major point of my case. Look, I'm fighting for equal justice for everybody. I've already served my year in prison. President Trump's giving me my life back. This isn't about money. This isn't about anything. This is me fighting for the average American citizen. We shouldn't be subjected to a separate set of laws than Hillary Clinton or James Comey, who admitted to leaking classified information to the press to try to benefit himself, or it's the same thing with Andrew McCabe. These people aren't above the law, but apparently they are, and I'm going to fight that until, as long as there's a breath in me, I'm going to fight that.
Good for
I'll
you.
drop this lawsuit. Yeah, I'll drop this lawsuit tomorrow if they restore my faith and the American people's faith in the justice system, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that we all, you expect that, right? That if you break the law, which you fessed up to, and you destroyed the evidence, I would imagine probably because you got scared, right? You threw the laptop
Absolutely.
away. You went through that process. But, everyone expects that the same rules apply for everybody. But unfortunately, it turns out they don't. So now we're going to get this IG report on June 14th. What's the potential for using what you see in there to help you with your case? What does your lawyer say about that?
Well, I think it's going to be a bombshell. I think it's going to be very revealing. It's going to show how James Comey decided, who broke the law and who didn't. He interpreted the law a completely different way for Hillary Clinton than he did me. And that's just upsetting. American people should wake up every morning with faith that the justice system is going to protect them. That's what it's there for, not to imprison them. The true enemies of the state isn't the serviceman taking pictures of something that he's proud of. It's the people changing the laws to benefit their cronies. That's what's truly breaking down this country's infrastructure, and I think that's where we need to focus, and I hope that's what this lawsuit will do. It's like I said, I'm going to fight for this as long as I have a breath in me, because it's truly, when I was in the military, I fought enemies foreign, and now I fight enemies domestic, and that's really what I believe Comey is. He's a domestic enemy.
Christian, thank you. I know you say that you're so grateful for the pardon and you're starting to get your life back together with your family. So we're happy for you that's what's happening in your own life. And keep us posted with this lawsuit. It's going to be interesting to watch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on, Martha.
You bet. So now to our other top story. Alice Johnson, a free woman tonight after a grant of clemency from President Trump after 22 years that she spent in a federal prison for charges related to drug possession and money laundering. Alice Johnson and her attorney, Michael Scholl, are here. So Alice, how's it feeling 24 hours in? How did you feel when you woke up in your house this morning?
I felt wonderful. No more bunk beds over my head.
I mean, it's a remarkable story. I mean, is it all sinking in for you? Because it really happened very fast, Alice.
It happened so fast that it's really now just starting to sink in that I'm truly free. Today has been a very busy day for me, but I'm just so happy nothing bothers me.
I know you've said that, you expected to spend the rest of your life in prison. And that's what you were expecting. And I just can't imagine, and I know you became an ordained minister, how did you get through 22 years, a third of your life, for a nonviolent drug offense? How did you get through all that time?
The only way that I was able to make it through that time, and this is the truth, was my faith in God. I knew that one day He was going to bring me out. And I lived my life with an eye toward one day walking out of those doors a free woman. And the day that I got the news that President Trump had granted my clemency and given me a second chance in life was the best day of my life.
I do want it, because I know it's important to you to speak out to other people. And you say you want to bring those who are still left behind with you. But I want to go back to the bad moment in your life for just a minute, if I could. Because I think people need to know that you were in desperation. You had been divorced, you lost your job at FedEx, and you turned to crime. You got involved with these drug dealers, and you were a facilitator, an intermediary for them. What would you say to someone who right now finds themselves faced with that same kind of moment in their lives?
I would say, don't make a permanent decision that can change your life forever based on a temporary situation. Just because you go in a panic, take a breath and wait it out, because it was not worth it. That one mistake cost me not to be able to be there for my grandchildren, my elderly parents who died in prison. It changed the course of my entire life. Don't do it. That's what I say. Don't do anything illegal for some temporary gain, because I'm telling you, it is a trap.
How are you going to help others who you feel, because, it really is all about the
my message is I'm really wanting to fight hard in this whole prison reform effort, because that is what is important. And I tell anyone who is fighting for their life, do not give up. But you've also got to be prepared in case something does happen, in case your miracle does come. You want to make sure that you are ready to re-enter society. And I thank God that is what I was able to do with my time, was to prepare to re-enter society as a free woman.
Well, this is something that Jared Kushner, who is a special advisor to the president, and Kim Kardashian, who came on board for you in such a big way, and the president want to make happen for other people. What's your message to them tonight?
My message to President Trump is, thank you so much, President Trump, for taking the time to really look at my case and to really look at me. And as I've said before, I promise you, President Trump, I will make you proud that you gave me that second chance. And I tell Kim, keep your passion. I believe that what she is seeing happen for me is really stirred something even more up in her, a desire to help people, as she said, one person at a time.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny. You said that one of the things that shocked you the most when you got out was how much people were looking at their phones. I thought, that's a big change since you were away, right?
Yes. Yes.
But good thing Kim Kardashian was looking at her phone, because I think that's how she found you. Alice,
that is exactly how she found me.
Thank you so much, Alice. We really wish you all the best. And Michael, thank you so much for bringing Alice to us today. Good to see you both tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us on.
You bet. One story, right? So coming up next, an unusual thing happened at the White House today as Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe really rushed to Washington with a message for the president before he goes to Singapore. What was so urgent for Shinzo Abe? General Jack Keane on that. And a double standard for Democrats, the new list of demands that they have for any potential North Korea deal. But where were those concerns when they signed off on the Iran deal? Corey Lewandowski with his take after this.